Welcome back to another casted game, and today we are on Dry Arabia with two really interesting civilizations. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup today. On the north side we have City Beef in the yellow as the Abbasid dynasty, and on the south side in the teal we have Conrad Rue as the Order of the Dragon. So I apologise already if I get confused with yellow not being Order of the Dragon, but I'm going to do my absolute best. This, I think, is going to be a really interesting one because the Order of the Dragon often tends to be very aggressive very early on, sometimes with some Dark Age units and tower rushing, sometimes with men-at-arms in feudal, so that's going to be really interesting to see how City Beef decides to deal with that, whereas the Abbasid can go a whole host of different ways, and I really love the fact that their landmarks tend to be so flexible. So there's eco if you want to boom with TCs, there's the military wing which can either be used to go for a really heavy feudal or potentially a sneaky 2TC behind it. You've got culture into a fast castle, so there's loads of different plays, so I think we're going to have to see. But the one thing you've got to be careful of when you're against Order of the Dragon is those really hefty, beefy units, because one men-at-arms, it really does take a lot to take those out, so you've got to be really careful you don't get caught unaware, and you have to go for the hard counters. So if they make horsemen, you have to make spears. You're not going to be able to take it out with anything else, and they're just going to be able to do a huge amount of damage. Now, if we have a little look at what both of these players are doing, if we have a look at City Beef, he's trying to currently deny the deer that Conrad's going out to get, and unfortunately these dragon villagers do a lot of damage, so if he's not careful he's going to lose his scout, which means no sheep at home, which is going to be very, very nice for the Order because they do take a lot of food. And here we go, he's off now. So I think this scouting path straight down to the base is actually quite common, because if you see an early barracks go down, you might be seeing a tower rush a bit like the Mongols. So personally I think going and scouting their base immediately is a pretty good idea, and he also does know now that they're on this food source out here, so if he does decide to pressure it, he knows where to go. If we check over on Conrad's side for his scouting path, he has been denying the deer push here, and he's just caught City Beef here, so now he's going to be able to scoot round and force him to stay on this right hand side while he goes and gets all of the sheep and then scoops up all the others on this top side. So this is going really well, and you can see here that we've got survival techniques for Conrad coming in, so that food eco is going to be going up really nicely there for him. And if we have a little look, he's got 5 villagers on deer, which is pretty common, and if he gets enough wood for an outpost, those 5 villagers can jump in, and because they get that increased gather speed, they gather 40% more resources. They actually do just as well as 8 normal villagers on the deer. We can see, when we look at the top, if we bring the fog away, we can see the military wing coming up, which is kind of, I think, a good play here, because you need to have some units, and especially because you know there's some units out here exposed, then you can go and do a little pokey poke. Conrad is doing some really good scouting here and seeing that what's going on, and City Beef's doing an interesting thing where you put a mill on the other side so all of the berries are really close. It does slightly improve your gather rate because there's less walk time. Whether it's a good early investment this early when you may be expecting units in your base fairly shortly, we'll have to wait and see. If we go over here, so City Beef unfortunately has only got the 1 sheep so far, so once those berries are gone he might be struggling for food a little bit. But looking at the spawn, it looks like actually Conrad's come off really, really well, because he's got back gold, back berries, and just with like 1 wall on this side, he's got 2 other gold veins, he's got another berries, he's got deer, he's got stone, and he's got a market. So there's just tons and tons of stuff all condensed into this corner, whereas on City Beef's side it's a little bit more exposed. There are some back resources that you can wall off fairly easily, but the gold is all out. He's got a front gold up here which can be quite easily pushed, so we're just going to have to see how Conrad takes advantage of that. These military wing units coming out, so you get 2 archers and 2 spears, and Conrad here checking out what's going on. I would make sure you get those sheep home, mate, because you don't want to run out of food even though you are on the deer. And if we go down, the mine work is just about to complete, so hopefully we're going to be seeing a little bit of feudal action. The mine work tends to be the most popular choice because the Archon isn't really as good as the HRE version, because it doesn't have such a huge impact, whereas the mine work for the Order is really good because you get 50% reduced cost, 50% speed, but the main thing you want is this golden cuirass. because it reduces the damage taken by 20% once they fall under 30% health. And once you get into the later ages, that 30% health is still pretty high, and it means you can take a huge amount of damage. And what I didn't realise when I first started playing Order, it's not just range damage that's reduced, it's all damage. So they just start getting so beefy and so heavy. So that's something to really be careful of. And City Beef's going into a ram now. This is a really early ram, and I am often advised in my own games, and when I see it a lot, going around this early is a really big investment. If you think it's 200 resources when you don't even have 200 food or anything like that. So really, if you're going to be building a ram, it's got to be doing some real damage. Otherwise, you could just get more units, like even a horseman or something like that. And we can see a camel archer coming in now, so maybe to do a little bit of raiding. And Conrad has a stables, so these horsemen are going to be coming down. So although he's got a couple of spears here, these horsemen are still going to be able to do a huge amount of damage. So we want to be seeing a barracks coming down pretty sharpish, because unfortunately you don't want to be pumping too many ranged units. Although the camel archers will debuff the horses, because they are ranged cavalry, I think they will also get the bonus damage from his gilded horses, which is really not going to be ideal for City Beef. And look at this gilded guy coming out. All of the order units just look so good. And there we go, he's going to skirt round and bang. So look at that damage. 1 hit, 2 hits, and he's tanking these 2 spears, and even the gilded villagers are coming in to do some damage, which is amazing. And there we go, carrying off their venison for later. And so here now, because he's so mobile, these spears really aren't going to do any damage, and he has no archers. And although there's a camel archer coming over, I'm not sure that's going to do a huge amount. And Conrad is going for the mining camp. Interesting. Are we going to see Order 2TC? This is not what I was expecting. Maybe the Abbasid military 2TC I would see, especially with that back stone. You could sneakily get away with one and drop it somewhere interesting, maybe over here with the resources. But Order going for it is just not what I was expecting. And Conrad's clearly got so much food on those deer, he just doesn't need to even drop those sheep off now. And if we look, we've still got the ram, we've got the camel, and we've got the spear. So this is what I was saying earlier. This ram is a huge investment, and so far it's not done anything. It's even the archers that could have jumped into there and maybe been protected from the horse, they're all gone. So look, these villagers are going to go in, and those spearmen are going to go down, because they take lots of damage from these. And one gilded horseman there running into the base, and even if he's not getting the kill, he's getting the idle time. So he's pushed them off the gold, which means now City Beef isn't going to be able to get all of those upgrades. One thing I'd say for Conrad here, he is getting outposts and stuff like that, but he's got some gold, but he's not getting his upgrades in, which I think is a real shame, because as the Order, because you have that increased gather rate, those upgrades do stack, and you get an even better return than anyone else. So really, wheelbarrow and your horticulture and your double broadaxe especially, you really want to be getting those in early, especially as you're on berries and sheep. You definitely want to be getting horticulture at least, but with wheelbarrow, because they already have that higher carry capacity, it just means that they carry even more, reducing the walking distance. These camel archers now are chasing down this gilded horseman, and it does do slightly less, but if you see the damage he's doing there, he's maybe going to be taken out by those archers, unfortunately, but that's a huge amount of damage on that camel archer. So I think if Conrad can mass up some units, that's going to really help. But all the units do take up double population, and they are a lot more expensive and slower to produce. So although they are super strong, it really does take a lot of time to mass up. So hopefully City Beef could take advantage of that by massing up more units, because that's something the Order generally struggles with. And there's a little men-at-arms here, and I just want to look at how cool they look. Him just chilling out by the barracks, ready to go and engage. We've got the second TC that's coming down over on the deer here, so this is securing loads of food. And as I mentioned, now this back pocket with one little wall over here, it's going to basically block off all of these nice resources for Conrad. So this is really nice to see. And these camel archers, oh no, they've missed the TC. They could have done some real damage to these villagers, because it's also important to remember that the Order villagers do produce slightly more slowly, and they are slightly more expensive. So if you can do more damage against those villagers, it really hurts. If you kill one normal villager, that's a lot of eco. If you kill one gilded or dragon villager, that's really something that you really don't want to be doing. And here we go, we've got the horseman coming in, and bam, there we go. So those camel archers are going down, and the military numbers looking fairly even, and they're starting to go in Conrad's favour. Even just with 3 units, actually in terms of power, I think he's going to come out on top. And that TC's gone down now, so now he's going to be pumping out. And once that villager difference goes down, in terms of the economy, Conrad's is going to shoot up and really go crazy. And we can see some of these resources coming in now, some of these upgrades. But we do see these some more camels going heavy into camel archers. I'm not sure this is the best play. At the moment, we'll just have to see how much damage they can do. But, oh, there's a villager kill, so there we go. First villager kill of the game. And so they are now denying this gold. But, luckily for Conrad, he does have these other golds over here, so maybe a cheeky little tower or something and getting some gold from there, that would get him up, because really if he can get to castle and get some of these relics with the regnets, that's going to really make his economy go absolutely insane. And going for this front gold, I don't hate it, because it's very close to the TC, so you can drop back. It's also then means you're not using up these safer resources for later. So I'm quite happy with this forward one. I do think he should be doing that, but these camel archers are just moving over. So, and is Conrad going to notice it? Just about. There we go. So one thing, these camel archers, you can tell they've been rallied. So if we go from City Beast's perspective and we look at the rally points, they've probably been rallied all the way down here exactly. So they ran past this tower and they didn't actually start attacking. So one thing that you want to be doing is moving your units across the map, and then they will catch stuff like this. If you know that your opponent is down here, you don't want to be walking past a single villager like that, because again, then you can get a nice little kill like that. So but these camel archer numbers looking pretty strong, and City Beef in the meantime has moved out double towers on the berries over here, and double towers on the berries at the back to try and be more defensive. And these camel raiders are really starting to do some damage, so Conrad's going to have to deal with these. And I think a really nice little short wall here would have really prevented this. A short wall here and then a short wall across the front, so it's within TC range. That would have put a stop to all of these little raids. And unfortunately, he's getting raided on both sides. So this is really nice pressure from City Beef here. Although he doesn't have a scout, so his vision's going to be a little more limited, these camel archers are going to be able to kite and do some pretty good damage. But unfortunately, those gilded units, once they get you, that's going to be it, unfortunately. So hopefully Conrad can chuck a little wall up here and really secure this back corner without taking too much more damage from these camel archers. And the second TCs also don't automatically get the emplacements and the shots, so these camel archers can get as close as they like. And here, this is really nice that he's actually blocking the retreat, so even if Conrad notices, which unfortunately he hasn't, they wouldn't be able to get past them to get in the TC quickly enough, and they can do some real damage. Not sure about the camels trying to take out the TC. I think with that health and the ranged armor, I'm not sure it's gonna do a huge amount, but you know, it's nice to do a bit of damage. And there we go, as I suggested, that little wall's come down, so no more cheeky camel raids down at the bottom. And I think this military here for Conrad looks small, but it's really mighty. But these horses need to be out and doing some damage on the field. They need to be up here pushing on the berries. And it's good to remember that it doesn't matter if you get the villagers. Even with these outposts, he can protect these villagers because he has 9 on this one and he has 12 over here. So you probably get 2 kills because you can only get 5 in each outpost. But even idling them means that food eco is just going to suddenly halt, which means you can really take advantage of that. And so now that berry's gone. And this is why I think sometimes doing these outposts is a really big investment, because now that's 200 wood just sitting there basically protecting nothing. There's a fight going on with the archers over here, so we've still got 13 and we've only got 7 here and another 3 coming, so there's a couple more somewhere else. And this is the thing, see, look, they're running past it now because they rallied past that point. So you want to be really careful if you set a really forward rally point that you're not just going to run into all these units, because look at the damage these horses are doing. Look at all of that damage they're doing as they're chasing them away. And there's one there, but a little horse at home, and that's killed that off. And see these camels now, there were 10 and now there's 5. So retreating and taking a really bad fight there as it was rallied past is really not helping. And unfortunately, it's there we go. So the rally point's been changed now, and it's actually at home, which means then he's going to have a bit more control of where they go. We can see Wheelbarrow coming in for Conrad as well, and looking at the ecos looking pretty strong. The gold's starting to build and he's getting more villagers on food, so it looks like he might be slowly working towards a castle age. And we can see here the horsemen going up to get the raids exactly as I thought they would. Here we go, because they do such huge damage, 16 damage per hit. And like this, he might not get a kill there. These units can take a bit of the fire because they have such high health, but all of that eco is idle. And now he's in their base, getting a couple of villager kills, idling. Look at all that idle time. Look at all of those villagers running in. Fantastic raids from Conrad there. And because it's outside TC range, he can just sit in there. If the spears come in, he can run away. Fantastic work. And now at the front, there's a tower, but what are you going to do? The tower's full, and all those villagers are going to get caught out of position, and some of them will get taken down. And with the men-at-arms, they're going to be able to burn down that tower with no trouble whatsoever. And here we go. So look, now, because the auto garrison as well, something you've got to be really careful of while the gilded units are going around and polishing off all the units in the base. The auto garrison will fill up the TC, and then because you've got these outposts at the back over here, that's going to fill those up as well. So now those villagers that were on the gold or were on the farms around here are going to have to run all the way back from there. So now they're just going to be caught out of position. And I'm not so sure about the 2 defensive towers at the back are really going to do a lot as Conrad's going around there cleaning up the villagers and building his eco at home. So although he has the 2 TCs, he hasn't quite been able to take advantage of it yet because he's lost 16 villagers, but they are worth 40% more. So I can't really do the maths, but I'm pretty sure Conrad is ahead in terms of the numbers. But look at that idle, 44 villagers idle. That means his economy doesn't exist. So at the moment, City Beef has no economy. He's got men-at-arms in his wood line, and that's it. He's just completely sitting there, not generating any resources, and eventually he's not going to be able to make any reinforcements either. And Conrad's just continuing to pressure. So yeah, he might be losing this horseman, but if these guys aren't getting any food, eventually he's not going to be even able to produce any villagers. And when the villagers come out, what are they going to do? This is a really bad position for City Beef, and it's going to give Conrad lots of openings to either do some damage or do whatever the next stage of his plan is. And these units moving out, now he's starting to fall into the order trap where you've got these big units, but if you get outnumbered and they can start doing huge damage, then you can lose them fairly easily. So the horse is up here still trying to do a bit of damage while there's a fight going on, poking and prodding, and because of the fights happening, he's not quite noticing that, so that's another villager down. So now we're up to 11 kills for Conrad. This is working really well. And if we go and check out his base at home, he's got a couple of farms set up around the home TC. We've got all of the eco upgrades coming through, except double broadaxe, probably need that, and maybe a little lumber camp in here just to stop the walk time. It feels like I'm literally saying everything that I've been told about my most recent games. So I feel you, Conrad, don't worry about it. But so like what City Beef's doing here where he's stepping them out, that's actually the best thing to do, and all of these villagers are then going to be gathering as much as possible. So now the tables have turned, and City Beef is pushing into Conrad's base, and he's going to try and get some damage, but they're going to be moving away. He might get some villager kills here, but they are weak to range, so this TC is going to really be peppering them, and all of these units are going to catch them, and I think that's going to be it. So although the horses are debuffed because they do such crazy damage anyway, and they have such high health, and I'm pretty sure, if we have a look at the stats, 1.88 for the Gilded Horsemen, and the Camels are 1.6, so the Horsemen are actually faster. So even if they just run away, the horses will catch them eventually. So this is really bad now for City Beef because he doesn't have the units. He has a couple of spears, but those 4 men-at-arms would clean those up. Easy peasy. If we go out here, so Conrad's out on the berries, and again these units are trying to run straight into the wood line, and they're just getting caught by all of this outpost fire, and look at the damage that guy's taking. It's really not going to work out well for him there. So this is starting to look very, very strong position for Conrad. That second TC is pumping, and now they're almost equal in villager numbers, which means he's actually 40% ahead. So this is something you don't want to let the order do. Once they get their eco kicking and they're really producing those units, they can just get a load of production, and then they've got super strong units and a super strong eco. If we go back over to City Beef, it looks like he's not producing any units, and he's going for a full farm transition. Oh dear, this is really not what you want to be seeing as the Abbasid. Unless, even if you've got the eco wing and you get the reduced farm costs, going for a farm transition at this stage is really going to hurt, because Conrad is out on all these open food sources on the berries. He's taken the deer, so that means he's not building loads of farms. He's got some, but that means he can be either using it to age up the castle, which is looking like it's coming through, or making units. Whereas now, City Beef's in the situation he needs food, and so he's going to have to do this, which means no units and no age up. So the age up is looking like it's coming, but the regnits is going up, and with 8 villagers villagers on it, if we find out where it's being placed in the bag, okay, nice and safe. The 8 villagers actually build faster as well, so this is going to be going up very, very quickly, and then hopefully Conrad's going to be able to get these relics. Apart from the one that's up here, unless he's super, super sneaky, I think he probably will be able to get these 3 and then leaving the back one safe. So hopefully we'll see Conrad rally this up in a second, because one nice thing that you can do is, even while it's constructing, you can rally it out to the different relics, and then as soon as it's built, you can click it, build your scholar, and then you're good to go. Because Order, unlike HRE, doesn't get a scholar in Feudal or Dark Age. So as HRE would literally put their prelates down ready to pick the relics up as they hit castle, you can't do that as the Order, so it does take a little bit of extra time. But with all of these horsemen and units, you could be doing that. They're rallying here to protect his woodline, which I think is quite nice. Also, maybe just a little wall would stop that, but your scout really needs to be going over and seeing what's happening, because the culture wing's going up, and this means that he's going to get the reduced technologies and the age up, so if he wants to go for an Imperial, that could be okay. And then it's the town centres get healing. So personally, I'm not sure this is the best play. Potentially, I might have gone for the eco so that you can get those increased farms, because you've got all of those farms. Maybe dropping a late TC so you can build your advantage. You are going to get the military wing, so you will get composite bows, so you could go very heavy into archers, but he does already have gilded horsemen, so that's also not particularly ideal. So we can see a prelate in queue now, and hopefully we'll be able to see it's rallied up there, which is really, really nice. So just rallied the one relic. Often you'll see people rallying to 2 or 3, so they will basically go out, pick up the relic, go home, and then go and get another one. But we can see a horseman now pushing them off the berries. Really nice. So now he's going to be able to try and get this relic if he's fast enough, whereas City Beef has aged up with the culture wing, and he's getting the improved spears, so that's going to do really nice damage against those gilded horsemen. And he's going for also for the upgraded camel archers, so he's getting more of those, and some lancers. Whereas Conrad actually isn't building any units, he's just making more and more prelates. So I think he's just going for the really heavy relic play. Once you get all of those, because of the increased the resources from the Regnits, and that warning was wolf, I think, then that means the eco is going to be going really well. So you can see here is floating lots of wood and food, so that really, there we go, horsemen going into queue. And at this stage I think you want to be dropping down loads of production. So far we have 2 stables and a barracks, but they do produce really slowly. Like a knight is 42 seconds, so with all this wood you want to be chucking down a load of production so you can just pump out those units. And especially there, the scout's gone down, being pulled in by those spears, unfortunately, so his vision's going to be a little bit more limited. And we can see one relic in the bag heading home, and so the wolf coming to say hello, and we've got another prelate going out here. So because he's pushed them off these berries, I would be trying to sneak him up here with a couple of horsemen, trying to grab that, and then the horsemen could pop around and do a bit of raiding on the back. So this is one thing, all of these horsemen there with the men at arms, these horsemen can be running around checking all these external food sources like the deer at the front, and then if you've seen the farm transition, a couple of horsemen running right around the outside and then into this eco would do a huge amount of damage. But we can see the military numbers pumping for both players now, trying to keep up. And as I mentioned, here we go, so we've got some siege, we've got stables, we've got barracks, so we're going to see the orders numbers go right up. And if we go to the eco count in castle, we can see now that the gold for Conrad is insane, and that's partly because of one of the relics, but also because he's mining lots of gold. And this is something you see a lot for order players, because they need a lot of gold for their units. So if you think a knight is 200 just for one, and you've got the men at arms are 40, and the Landsknecht, if you want them, are really expensive. But here we're taking a really big fight. You can see all these spears, but look at those gilded horses, and they're just going to run around and clean up all of those camels. And the spears need to be turning around to getting those horses, otherwise their reinforcements are going to be gone. And look at the tanking from those men at arms. They're just tanking the whole load of those. And look at these horses are now running around, cleaning up all those camels, taking out the lancers. They're just doing some crazy damage. And the men at arms, look at them, still there, still running around. And this is the thing with the mobility. The camels are slower, so they can just run away and they can go into the eco. And now City Beef's in the situation. Does he continue to take this fight, or does he chase the horsemen down, which are going to be popping into his eco and doing some real damage again? There's a villager there just taking a little nap, you know, waiting for something to do, I guess. And here, this is, like I mentioned, the horseman now going around the back to do some of this damage. And really nicely here, Conrad's also getting the sacred sites, which is going to force a response from his opponent. And this is really nice, these horsemen just running around, peeling them off. That's exactly what I was going to suggest, because look now, these 4 coming in, and if he's lucky, he might catch this imam and get that relic down. Oh, really nicely done from Conrad there. And this is really bad, because now that could have been some additional resources to boost the eco, because although he's got really good food eco, he's actually better than Conrad's at this stage. Overall, Conrad is in a way better position with more villagers and better villagers. So it's a quantity and quality, unfortunately, for City Beef at the moment. And then these units are going around checking all those external resources, but getting caught out at the front. And this is something as the order you really got to be careful of, because you really don't have the numbers. It says 40 here, but if you look, he's only got 12 horses. So when you compare the numbers, actually in terms of units, they're very similar. And so that's why in terms of upgrades, you often see the order players focusing on the armor upgrades first, which you don't see often for the others, because they tend to do less damage because there are less units. But doing some really nice raiding, catching some villagers out as the rest of his reinforcements are being chased back over here. So while City Beef is doing some heavy damage and getting these units down, and oh, nice mangonel shot there. But these horses are now going to be burning down, and all of the order units do massive torch damage, 24, so that's why this tower is going down super quickly. And look at these gilded horsemen now just cleaning up all of these villagers, up to 26 down, and it's just going to be going up and up and up. And although he might be losing a bit of the fight down here in some of the villagers, it's now just becoming a free-for-all of who can get more. So Conrad's in the base, trying to get all of these woodvilles and the ones on the farms, and City Beef's down here getting all the gold villagers with these couple of camels and going into the wood line. So it's just become a complete free-for-all to who can get the most villager kills at this stage. And a defensive keep going up, but I think the camel archers are going to find it out, and so it's really just going to be a matter of who can hold out the longest or do the most damage in the opponent's base. So this keep is going to get denied by all of these camels, whereas at home these horsemen are running around and they've just cleaned up. So they've up to 50 kills now. So if you look at that, he's got double the villagers. So although this keeps getting denied and he's taking a lot of damage, he's got double the villagers. So this is a really bad position for City Beef. However, that being said, the order's problem is actually always going to be getting out that military. So unless you've got a huge amount of military production, you can't use all these resources. Look at that, 6,000 gold, and you've got no way to use it. So it's, you know, 4 stables, but it takes you, you know, 32 seconds to get them out. So this is going to be the real problem, that now if he wants to mass up again to take out the units that are going to be coming from the other side, it's going to take him a little while to get pumping again. But if we go back over, look at that food eco again. It's so heavily damaged, and all of these wood villagers are there, but they need to be filling up these farms, otherwise his food eco is just never going to recover. There's no point in having 1,000 wood if you haven't got any food to make villagers. And there's a lot of villagers in queue. Want to be really careful of this, because you want to be making sure that you can actually make more military, because Conrad is massing up and he's going into those gilded archers, while there's a couple more camels and crossbows coming up on the top side. So some really heavy raiding and a crazy game going on at the moment, and it looks like Conrad is going up to steal the gold in the top corner, because, you know, why not? Don't worry about this one back at home. I'm going to go up for the one in the top corner because, you know, it just looks better. And unfortunately, Conrad's not noticing these units in his wood line killing these villagers, so now he's up to 40 villagers down. So it really is a battle of the villager raiding, and we can see the sacred sites being decapped all the way across, and Conrad, I don't think, was going for the sacred site victory, but he's forced a response. But he really needs to respond here, because he's lost so many villagers on this wood line, and now they're going to be coming through and getting these couple of idols here. So this is really important, and if that early wall here that I mentioned was over here, they would have at least been caught out by the TC, and that would give you an attack warning. But this is something where he's got, look, he's got the military coming out, and these gilded gilded archers would clean up all of these units in no time. So and there we go, there's a couple going over now to hopefully put an end to them, and they're trapped in that back corner. But I think Conrad really needs to get some defensive walls up, especially across this front edge, to really just protect his little pocket base, and then he won't be taking such heavy damage. But look, there's these archers and camels that are just sitting there, and he's gonna get really hurt by all of this damage. And City Beef's pulling back now, and I think unfortunately, looking at these numbers, it's looking really bad for him at this stage. Conrad's still got a ton of gold, so there is a market in his base. We saw that go down, so whether he's going to be buying and selling resources to rebalance it out, but you can see from the resources per minute that he has figured that out. But looking at the top, he went for the gold and said, you know what, no, I think I need more stone. So he's now gone for the front stone, and he's also going to be towering that stone if the wolf doesn't finish off his dinner before it goes up. And if we have a look at City Beef's base, all of those farms filled back up, so the food eco is starting to pick up again. But with these lower villager numbers, looking at the difference, you've got 1,600 food a minute versus 600. This is a really uphill battle at this stage. So hopefully Conrad's going to be able to take this mass of gilded chunky boys and go and do some real damage in a second. But he's just massing up. You can see all of these units in queue, and this is the thing, it does take a little while for him to do that. So we've got some Springles, we've got some Mangonels, we've got the full array, and we're going mass infantry with a couple of knights to defend. But let's check. The good thing is with the gilded villagers, if you get caught out by the wolves, as I think we all have done, then you do have that increased health. And textiles, interestingly, also with the order is better, because it's a 50% increase. They already have 65, so they get even more bonus from it. So it's another one of those upgrades which works out better. And look, villagers caught out of place, and those units are going to be cleaning them up. But if we see now 23 archers which counter the camels, which counter everything, so this is going to be a really heavy order fight here, and chasing them down. They are a little bit more mobile, but because they're all grouped together, they're moving at the archer speed. So you want to be really careful with your cavalry, that if you're running away like this, that you run your cavalry separately, otherwise they are going to be going in the slowest speed. The same as we're moving here, all of them are going to be moving at the siege speed. But it looks like Conrad's doing it really nicely here, siege separate and a front line. Look at that beautiful arrangement. It's like a symphony, like synchronized swimmers, and I think they're going to be going in for the final attack here. So now the Mangonel's going and taking out that tower, and look at that damage. But look at these men-at-arms, this torch damage. It's just going to go down so quickly. There we go. That tower is toast. And the horseman coming round, is he going to catch them? Or there we go, a couple of men-at-arms to try and stop them, and look at the damage they're doing. Those horsemen are running around, and they might get the Mangonels, but I think that's going to be a lot of damage. And these men-at-arms here, look at all of the units they're tanking. Look at that. They're just taking all of that damage and literally not even phased by it whatsoever. And really, normal archers, even with the Abbasid upgrades of the composite bows, are not going to be able to do anything against these men-at-arms. And look at their health bars. They're not even changing when they're getting hit by all this stuff. And that is GG from City Beef. So really strong play there from Conrad, and I think the raids that took out the massive eco from both players made this a really interesting one. Now, we've rewound just before the end of the game so that we can have a little look at the final state of play before GG was called. So, as we can see here, Conrad is doing his final push in, and if we have a look at his base, he's got this second TC set up with a load of farms around it. He's got some farms back at home, so his food eco is going nicely. He's only got the 2 relics in here, so they must be in some towers, which obviously as the order you get to do that, so that gives them the increased damage. Armor, sight, everything basically just makes them amazing. So chucking them in there or chucking them in the keep really does increase your defenses. He's also got some villagers out here which ran up from this second TC to get wood and stuff like that. So obviously they're going out into quite exposed areas, maybe going out over to this side with the ball, something that you could close off would work, but they've not been spotted, and they're quite comfortably towering and gathering up all of these resources on the top side that City Beef hasn't quite noticed. If we look at that, the base, this little wall, if that had come up earlier instead of the tower, because this tower was being built, that would have prevented some of those very early raids. But the later raids where it really started racking up those villager kills, if this was completely closed off at the front, either just a short wall so it had to go around the TC, or actually just saying, right, from this corner up here all the way across the front of the base, that if that had just been walled up, so there was no way of actually any units getting in, even using the gold veins as a way of reducing the wood cost, because you can go up to the gold and then across and doing it that way, that I think would have been really nice to stop all those counter raids, because Conrad was in a really good position, but those villager kills really did slow down the sort of momentum that he was building, because he had to come back and defend them, or he just lost loads and loads of villagers. If we go over to City Beef on the other hand, we can see actually he got a second TC up here to try and get the villager lead or get the villager difference a little closer again, but unfortunately at this stage, if you think Conrad's got 65 villagers, he's got 46, but that 65 is actually 40% more. So if I can work that out in my head, that's 26 extra villagers, so that would take you up to 91 versus 46. So Conrad's basically double, and looking at the eco you can see those numbers pretty clearly. As well as the populations, he's almost at 200, whereas City Beef is at 73, even with his military. So although the numbers here don't look that big, when you consider the population difference of his military is 106, that really does make a huge difference. And he had to go for this really early farm transition, which I think is what really hurt him, and then getting the farm transition raided. So all of these farms were sitting idle, so not only was it really early investment into wood, but also that. So I think potentially the military wing was actually a very good play at the beginning. Hasn't got any of these upgrades, so composite bows really strong, but as Conrad basically went into men-at-arms and horses, the archers weren't really the right play, and it only works for archers. The boot camp is pretty good if you go for lots of infantry, because you get that extra health, so really for the amount of resources that is, it probably should have been the case. But I think going into castle with the culture wing, not quite sure what the play was there, because neither of those researches would actually do very much, and apart from that it doesn't really do anything. I would say that potentially going for the eco, so you could get your eco buildings and maybe add in a couple of extra TCs, if that's what you were going to do anyway, could have worked. Or even maybe just going for a bit of a YOLO trade and getting just even trade from here back into that back corner, potentially could have got a load of gold up and stuff like that. So even though he had these Springle emplacements coming up on these towers, which I imagine would be some of the front ones up here, they were getting taken out as they were being built, and then there's probably a couple of towers around that were also getting those resources, but very exposed. I think City Beef could have done really well of walling up to this back wood. If you think when this was all solid, that would have stopped all the raiding to that one side, and then just one short wall right across here in front of the berries would have secured the berries, the gold, these berries. But Conrad was way luckier with the spawn here, and so if he'd have walled in, he would have had super safe eco and would have been even more ahead in terms of that. And having the wood line here completely raided as well really didn't do a lot. But I think City Beef did almost get a relic. He's just about to grab it and put it in there again, but Conrad managed to deny that, which is a massive boost to his eco, because he got 4, but also it's denying that eco from his opponent. So I think really well played there from Conrad, and I think City Beef was in quite a good position if he had taken advantage of the fact that he could mass up lots and lots of units and then overwhelmed Conrad, especially when he was in small pockets with his army in small chunks. But once you see the gilded blob like this, you're in for real trouble. But a really interesting game, some fantastic play, and I will see you in the next one.